Good morning. Good morning. It's 7:30 a.m. It's Tuesday, December 6th, 2022. In the council chambers at City Hall, 1123 West Lake Street, Sandpoint, Idaho. And this is a regular monthly meeting of the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency Board of Commissioners is now called to order. Roll call for the record. I, Chairman Eric Paul, is presiding. Also present are Commissioners Kendon Perry and Ned Brandenberger. Commissioners Marilyn Sabella and Tom McCoy are participating via Zoom. The first item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes from the October 4th, 2022 meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented. Motion.
So move.
Commissioner Sabella. Second. Commissioner Perry seconded. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes and the minutes are approved. Madam Clerk, are there any members of the public in attendance?
Mr. Chairman, there is no one from the public in attendance aside from the chairperson for our Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission, who's here to provide a report.
Thank you. We have to read the next comment, even if Ellie's here. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the monthly financial report. Please note the balances are effective November 29th, 2022. The downtown general account had $682,281. Revenue allocation fund, which is our payment reserve, has $94,431.29. The northern revenue allocation area has $3,873,827. Our downtown loan balance is $1,022,732. Our next payment is due March 15, 2023. We did receive increment in October after our meeting. For the downtown, or for the northern, was $2,549.54 and $1,484 for the downtown. In November, we received increment from the northern of $2,709.53. No increment received in November for downtown. The arts funds for downtown, we have $143,697 reserved or restricted, and the northern has $78,623.73 restricted. Northern Silver Box project still has a remaining balance of $5,159.78. Commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this month's financial report? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you had inquired previously as to whether we had anyone from the public attending. I do note on Zoom there is one member of the public in attendance at this time.
Okay. Before we proceed, for any members of the public in attendance, there will be an opportunity to comment on this morning's agenda's topics as appropriate as we wrap up presentations and discussion on each. The rules for public comment during the meeting are as follows. Comments may not be derogatory in nature against any individual, business, or organization. Public comment opportunities are for comments only. Do not ask questions of the board or city staff. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Public comment is at the discretion of the chair. Are there any other announcements or reports from the board or city staff at this moment? Perfect. Thanks, Amanda.
Actually,
yes.
This is Brad.
Hello, Ellie.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. I'm Ellie Sussless. I'm the chair of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission. Our art and culture officer, Heather Upton, could not be here, so I'm going to give you a quick update on the commission activities. The city just awarded our NEA ARP Operations Support Subgrant to 8 local nonprofit arts organizations.
Ellie, my pardon for interrupting. Would it be okay if you came sat by your voice is just a little bit quieter and I can see people on Zoom trying to listen in a little bit.
Sorry.
We want to make sure we capture your report.
Yep.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good morning, our art. Hi, I'm Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
The chair for the Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation Commission here in Sandpoint. Our art and culture officer, Heather Upton, could not be here, so I'm going to give a quick update on the commission activities. The city just awarded our NEA ARP Operations Support Subgrant to 8 local nonprofit organizations here in town, which is very exciting. Also, recommendations are going to City Council on Wednesday to apply on behalf of the Canada Theater for the Idaho Gem Grant to replace the roof. And I also wanted to let you know that we're looking forward to starting up another cycle of the Silver Box Art on Loan project for installation in the spring. We'll work on that this winter. So thank you very much. And if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions of Ellie, commissioners? Tom, Marilyn?
Nope.
Excited about the NEA money.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you,
All right.
Ellie.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming this morning.
Yeah.
We have no old business on the agenda, so we'll move right into new business. The first item under new business is a proposed MOU with the city of Sandpoint. The MOU is agreement with the city of Sandpoint to, and I'll have Megan weigh in here at some point, is to work through the process of the city parking lot and how we're going to work hand in hand in trying to get that situation moved forward. So that's the real brief part. Megan, do you want to chime in now, if you will, please? Megan's our counsel from Elam and Burke out of Boise. They've been our legal counsel for a long time. So Megan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me this morning. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and for the potential to work with you all on this project. The chair did an excellent job of setting the stage. The MOU is premised upon the joint participation between the city and the agency to develop the city parking lot site. The MOU provides a framework as to how these parties will work together to accomplish this goal of ultimately developing that site into potential commercial mixed use and parking, long-term goals certainly to be developed through the process. The MOU contemplates the establishment of a steering committee, including representatives of both the city and the agency. The agency, as you know, has a specific process that it must follow by statute in terms of disposition of property. And also the Idaho Code sets forth provisions for how the city and agency can work closely together in terms of disposing of real property. So the concept is ultimately the steering committee would jointly agree on the terms of a request for proposals that would be issued. The steering committee would then have an opportunity to jointly review those proposals, with the committee ultimately being a recommending body to the agency board, which will formally select the developer. The developer would then enter into an agreement with the agency that's referred to as an agreement to negotiate exclusively, which allows some time to develop the terms of the disposition and the development agreement, which is a fairly souped up purchase and sale agreement. It stands for the proposition that the parcel really would not be conveyed until there's certain triggers that are met within that document. Most significantly, confirmation of financing, and that the project has gone through the permitting process for conveyance of the property. So with that, as this project moves through the documenting process and moves closer to closing, then the city would convey the real property to the agency. The agency would then convey almost in a simultaneous closing to the developer to commence construction on the agreed upon project. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. Certainly there's a lot of details to be developed, but I think that the primary point of the MOU is to represent how the city and the agency intend to work together through the determining the scope of development and ultimately disposing of the property through this process. So happy to answer questions.
Sure.
I've got a couple questions. So when I was looking at the MOU, it's got a term of 12 months. In your experience, is that typically going to be enough time for, just the way that urban renewal and the city have to work together? And is that just a standard amount, or is that kind of based on some other examples?
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Commissioner. The 12-month time period typically is enough time to get through the selection process and ultimately to an agreement to negotiate exclusively with the developer group. You know, to the extent more time is needed, certainly the MOU can always be extended. But it's always good to try and have some sideboards and a termination date in the agreement, just in case we're not making forward progress.
Okay. And I guess one of the other areas that I think might complicate this is, and you know, nothing more than just an idea, but obviously we're talking about the city parcel where the parking lot is today. You know, I know that there have been discussions about potentially reaching out to US Bank, who has the property that's attaching, and they have a parking lot that's, you know, less than 100% used. Just the fact that we've got some moving parts potentially of, you know, acquiring that property, whether Urban Renewal or the city acquires that and then transfers that to Urban Renewal. And I'm not 100% sure what my question actually is here, but you know, the fact that we've got a couple moving parts, you know, to get to a proposal, you know, go through the RFP process and select. I guess my concern is 12 months seems, you know, to actually have a definitive agreement with a single selected developer. You know, if we're going to do something like reach out and try to work out with US Bank, you know, I'm just a little bit concerned about that sort of time frame. And would this MOU, you know, who would necessarily maybe lead the negotiations with US Bank or some other third party if that needs to happen as well?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. Those are great points. Certainly, the steering committee is going to have a lot to say about the contents of the request for proposal that's ultimately issued, and how other parcels are brought to the table, whether it's pursuant to a potential developer onboarding that additional site and bringing it with them as part of the ultimate proposal, or whether that's part of a more global understanding of the direction of the project, I think really remains to be seen. And your point's well taken. I do think having a 12-month time frame does require everybody to move expeditiously through the project, and does provide some time constraints. I mean, and certainly if there is a feeling that that's not sufficient enough time, you know, we can talk about the ultimate termination date, but I do think there's always the opportunity to extend that date, particularly if everybody is moving forward and somewhat rowing in the same direction. But you're correct. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts with this, and there's definitely more to come in pretty short order.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Perry?
Megan, who in fact would select the committee or the committee members?
That's it, you know, it's intended to be representatives of the city and the agency. So those bodies would need to be responsible for determining who will sit on the steering committee. And it may be that there have already, and Mr. Chair, do you have a status update on the steering committee? Or
I can speak on behalf of Urban Renewal right now. I think there's a little confusion between myself and Jennifer. I thought it was myself and Commissioner Bakovi. She sent out an invite for myself and Commissioner Perry. So I don't know on our actually going to be representing. Our first meeting's this Thursday, right? So you got the email.
Correct.
Tom didn't get the email. So are you available? Or Tom's in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is,
yeah, and I'll be in Florida on Thursday as well. This
is going to be an active committee that's going to have, like Megan said, it's going to be a fast charging process. So the time commitment, if we can't do it, then of course Commissioner Brandenburger can step in, or Isabel, but we got to get it together. And we might reach out to other commissioners throughout the process anyway, but we can't meet as a group. That's the problem with the 5-person commission. So first meeting is Thursday, 9 to 11. I think it's 9 to 11. So I just need you know, there's a confusion between myself and Jennifer, so I just need to know if it's gonna be Commissioner Perry or Commissioner Bowie.
We can vote for all three of us.
Can't have three of us there at one time.
Okay.
We can have alternate.
And I could alternate if our
We can,
schedules.
or Brandenburg, yeah.
Okay.
So we could do an alternate. So the first, we'll have Commissioner Perry be myself and Commissioner Perry. Megan. And then Commissioner Bacowie and or Brandenburger will be alternates. If Commissioner Perry can't, so then we could bring them up to speed on a one-off meeting, because we can't meet as a group of three on this. So that would be the details.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. I know there's been some discussions about that, and you know, it may be a little bit of a moving target here for the next little bit until it's fully staffed. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for clarifying where the discussions are currently.
Also, I think maybe along Tom's point with the potential US bank piece is Commissioner Brandenburger can help out in that because he's in the property business management and real estate. So maybe when we get into that, we can shift a little bit and pull Ned in, but we'll keep him up to speed as we go along. Okay. We could have one-offs, keeping everybody up to speed, but we can't meet as a group. Okay.
Megan, there's some other projects similar to this that we can take a peek at that might, you know, give us a glimpse of what this would look like as an end result.
Let's see, it's not unusual for there to be city agency participation in a development project. There is one that is working its way through the process in Jerome, where the city ultimately will convey real property to the agency, and agency is working with a development group. It's not unusual. Actually, there's also one working its way through the process in Twin Falls. So there are several models existing out there. I don't know that they're all the same. They all have their own unique nuances and deal specific terms that we just have to address and work through as we go through the process. And sitting here right now, I'm not able to identify all of those, but I am aware of the initial kickoff of the meeting on Thursday, and will plan to participate in that.
Any other questions or comments of Megan or as the group as we're sitting here on this process?
So this RFP has not been started yet, right? There's no,
Correct.
we're at ground zero.
Ground zero. We talked about it 10, 12 years ago. We didn't get very far off the ground with it, but it was in discussion at one time that Urban Renewal would take the city parking lot, work with the developer and transfer the property. So we're kind of picking up, starting over again, if you will.
So what are like the most basic key elements of this RFP?
Megan, did you hear the question?
I did. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. So the request for proposal, there's two ways you can approach it. One is keep it somewhat vague and then say, come with your best idea for development of this site. I think probably the better model is for the parties to have some idea, working with your, existing city planning and development codes, identifying what it is that you want to see developed on that site, and having more specific RFP, setting forth the goals that you want to see accomplished. For example, if you want commercial and retail space, or you want a certain number of floors, or the project has to include parking, if there's a certain number of stalls, how the agency may or may not be participating in this project. Certainly the land is being brought to the deal, but is there an opportunity to also reimburse for adjacent public infrastructure improvements? So you really have the opportunity to set the parameters of what the community would like to see developed in that site. And once that's issued, then that provides guidance to certain developer groups that either have had interest in the site or have interest developing in the area more broadly. And they can come to the table with a more specific proposal that meets the desired goals. So the RFP really can outline, it can be as specific or as broad as the committee ultimately ends up determining to be best meet the needs.
And how active will you be in helping the committee navigate this process?
So thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. I think my involvement is certainly, I work on your behalf. You know, the steering committee and its consultants will have probably broad, I don't want to say authority, but, you know, will broadly be directed as to what it is that the goals of the development will be. And then on the legal side, I would be contracted to work through the actual disposition process and the nuts and the bolts and how we work through the review committee, any specific agreements that are entered into, such as the agreement to negotiate exclusively or ultimately the disposition and development agreement. That would be probably my role. Mr. Chair, is that how you would envision?
Yes. Keeping us out of trouble. So I have a question. So as we move forward with this, like my comment, we have some alternates to the initial group that's going to be part of the committee. How much can we provide details? So like if Commissioner Perry's not able to meet, how do I reach out to Commissioners Brandenberger or Bacoe to say, here's what we talked about last meeting, here's where you need to step in. How does that, I don't want to violate the public meeting law stuff, so I just have to wander through that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And, you know, we may need to have some further discussions on the staffing of the steering committee. I want to make sure I'm fully up to speed as to what the discussions have been to date and certainly, you know, what the city and agency participation on that committee ultimately will be. And I think that will vet itself out here shortly. I think best and most practical case is if you need to have special meetings to update the board or, you know, make sure that you're having your monthly meetings, having regular status updates through that channel is probably the best.
So just in a regular public hearing, public meeting.
Yes.
Okay. So nothing
What
in
about
this.
public input to this? Will there be an opportunity for citizens to make their interest known?
So thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioner. That's a great question that I think I don't know that I have the answer to in terms of what the consultants have planned. Sometimes these types of projects do have a robust public outreach component to them. Sometimes they don't. So in terms of moving a project forward, certainly the project has to comply with all city zoning and planning requirements. You know, to the extent it's a type of project that's already acceptable under your planning documents, you know, that does somewhat limit the public opportunity in that realm. But, you know, and I will probably know more on Thursday.
Okay.
Yeah, Thursday, Maryland will be a big, that's where we get the details come out. It's a couple-hour meeting and the city will be there, their consultants will be there. So that's where we'll start hearing more about it. I mean, Amanda, do you have anything to weigh in on?
Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, I do not.
Okay, thank you.
So I think as one of the commissioners mentioned, this really is ground zero. It really is the kickoff and much more information is to come, particularly with regard to how this committee is structured and ultimately what their role is going to be and how the consultants interact and provide input on this project. So this really is the starting point. We're at the ground floor.
Yes. Any further questions or comments on this topic and for Megan at this point? Everybody good? Okay. Thank you, Megan. Very helpful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, commissioners.
So the next item on the business is I need to entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of Sandpoint. The city of Sandpoint has approved the memorandum of understanding, as you can see from your packet at their last council meeting. So I need a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman,
Oh,
are we taking public comment this morning from members of the public on this item? There is somebody raising their hand on.
sure.
Okay.
Start a timer.
I will get one. Moment.
We don't have to reply. Okay. You don't have to reply.
Kyle Schreiber. Mr. Schreiber, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, I just wanted to join in today to be a voice for those in opposition to this project entirely. There's many of us in the community who feel that this is a solution in search of a problem. The recent study of parking in downtown showed that there was not a lack of parking. And the idea that the city would give away a prime piece of real estate so that folks could avoid walking an extra block for the farmer's market is not a good reason. And in fact, there are better solutions. For example, the Monarch Mountain location, previous location, right next to the farmer's market location. If the justification is to provide more commercial properties in downtown, again, there are plenty of opportunities already. There are blighted properties all around downtown. And if anything, this would create a disincentive for those properties to be developed because it would create a glut of commercial properties. And so there would be no incentive for somebody to develop a property downtown that is currently a vacant lot if this project were to move forward. Furthermore, it doesn't seem fiscally responsible for a public agency to dispose of a prime piece of real estate and then sell or lease it back from the developer at a premium. We already own the parking lot. We don't need additional parking. And there's no reason that we should lose taxpayer money on this project to provide something that we don't need. So I would just ask that this project be tabled until an actual need exists. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, continuing on with our business, I will entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the city of Sandpoint. Motion?
Move to approve.
Commissioner Bacoy,
Second.
Commissioner Perry, a second. Is there any further discussion on the approval of the memorandum of understanding with the city of Sandpoint? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. The MOU is approved.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
point of clarification. Commissioner Sabella, are you abstaining or did you vote? I apologize. I didn't hear your voice.
I voted.
Voted in the affirmative.
Yes.
Thank
Next item on the agenda. Page, right? The final item on the agenda is a proposal to engage Elam and Burke as a special counsel. This is to engage Elam and Burke and Ryan Armbruster and Megan Conrad, and $250 an hour for Ryan if we use his services, Megan $225 an hour for her services, and then Abigail must be your paralegal.
So, Mr. Chair, it's actually Ryan and I are $250 an hour, and Abigail is an of-council attorney in our office that does urban renewal for $225, and then there's just $100 an hour for paralegal.
Oh, right, I read it wrong. Sorry, I apologize. As Megan stated, those are the cost of services, and this is when we engage. So like today, there'll be a fee for Megan. Thursday, there'll be a fee. We're not going to be over zealous with it. We use it as needed because it is public money.
Question, Mr. Chairman. We've worked with them before, so is this a renewal of that agreement or just re-engaging them for this particular project?
Megan, I think it's probably a re-engagement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. It is a re-engagement, and just to specify that we are just special counsel, and so really we will just be participating as directed by, the chair and your board. We don't represent in a general capacity, wouldn't be anticipated to participate in every agency meeting unless it's deemed necessary. So just clarifying and making sure that we're both on the same page as to the direction of the services moving forward.
For example, from time to time, the state says we haven't registered. Annually, we have to register. So there's a discussion sometimes between myself and Megan, where we have and the timing's off. So that's an engagement that would occur, but it's pretty limited, as you can see from our annual spend on legals, very limited. Any other questions, Megan?
Yeah, I do have a question from a rate perspective. The $250 per hour. Just want to make sure, obviously I know this is typically public record with other urban renewal agencies. If we were to look into the other rates for your other urban renewal clients within Idaho, is that in line? Are we going to find rates that are, potentially lower at some of the other cities?
So thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Most of our newer engagements are at the 250 level annually, or every other year we do work to increase rates. So depending on the type of project and anticipated services, that somewhat drives the rate. So for example, if we were going to be more of a general attorney and have a more robust presence, then typically the rate is a little bit lower. But since our services are more specific and not as regular, the rate is a little bit higher. But 250 is typically where you're going to see movement of our rate. We do have clients at a 250 rate. We also have clients 225, 230. Those are evaluated and will be adjusted accordingly.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I will now entertain a motion to approve the engagement letter of Elam and Burke, a special counsel. Motion. So moved. Commissioner Perry.
Second.
Commissioner Sabella. Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? None. Motion passes in the minutes.
Sorry,
And the engagement letter is approved. Sorry, no worries.
template.
With no further business on the agenda, the meeting is now adjourned at 8:04. Thank you, Megan, for joining. Tom, thanks for joining. Marilyn, thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. I look forward to working with you on this project. Appreciate it.
Talk to you on Thursday.
Yes, see you Thursday. Bye.